I believe that he was murdered. Well, I was shocked. And I wondered how it had happened. Because, as far as I was concerned, he was going to... I was sure he was going to appeal.
Ghilane Maxwell just got dragged back into one of Hollywood's darkest conversations, and this time, Michael Jackson's name sitting right in the middle of it. Word is whispers tied to Epstein's world are raising new questions about what MJ saw, who he crossed paths with, and why some folks believe his final years looked very different behind closed doors than what the public was told. And if even part of this story checks out, then Michael's downfall might not be the story everyone thought it was. What got people talking wasn't just Jeffrey Epstein anymore. It was the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell's name kept resurfacing right alongside conversations about some of the biggest celebrities in the world, including Michael Jackson. And that's where this story starts getting uncomfortable. Because when most people hear the name Ghislaine Maxwell, they immediately think about her role inside Jeffrey Epstein's operation. She wasn't some random bystander. Prosecutors described her as a key associate who helped Epstein recruit and manage relationships within his social world. Today, she's serving a prison sentence, and her name has become one of the most recognizable symbols of that entire scandal. But now, some online conversations are trying to connect Maxwell's world to Michael Jackson's story, and that's where the internet starts splitting into two completely different camps. One side believes Michael Jackson was another celebrity who got too close to powerful circles and saw things that disturbed him. The other side says there's no evidence for many of these claims and that people are connecting unrelated stories together because Epstein's case exposed how secretive elite networks can be. And honestly, that tension is exactly why this topic refuses to disappear. Because once Epstein's files became one of the biggest scandals in modern history, people started revisiting old stories through a completely different lens. Not just Michael Jackson, everybody. Suddenly people started asking who knew who attended what event, who appeared in old photographs, and who moved inside the same wealthy social circles. And before long, Michael Jackson's name got pulled into those conversations too. Now slow down for a second, because what keeps pulling viewers into this story is timing. Michael Jackson spent years talking about protecting childhood innocence. He repeatedly spoke about wanting children to feel safe in a world he believed was becoming increasingly harsh and cynical. Then, later in life, his public image became the center of enormous controversy. Whether somebody believes Michael was unfairly targeted or believes the public already knows the full story, one thing almost everyone agrees on is that his final years were incredibly turbulent.
My complete innocence, so be it. Throughout my life, I have only tried to help thousands upon thousands of children to live happy lives. It brings tears to my eyes when I see any child who suffers. I am not guilty of these allegations, but if I am guilty of anything, it is of giving all that I have to give to help children all over the world. It is of loving children of all ages and races. It is of gaining sheer joy from seeing children with their innocent and smiling faces. It is of enjoying through them the childhood that I missed myself.
When you're talking about children, we met Gavin, and it was a great privilege to meet Gavin because he's had a lot of suffering in his life.
Yeah.
When Gavin was there, he talked about the fact that he shares your bedroom.
Yes.
Can you understand why people would worry about that?
Because they're ignorant.
But is it really appropriate for a 44-year-old man to share a bedroom with a child who is not related to him at all?
That's a beautiful thing.
That's not a worrying thing?
Why should they be worrying? Who's the criminal? Who's Jack the Ripper in the room? This is a guy trying to help heal a child. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor. I gave him the bed because he has a brother named Star. So him and Star took the bed, and I'm on the floor in the sleeping bag.
Did you ever sleep in the bed with them?
No. But I have slept in the bed with many children. I sleep in the bed with all of them. When Macaulay Culkin were little, Kieran Culkin would sleep on this side, Macaulay Culkin's on this side, his sister's in there. We're all just jamming the bed. Then we wake up like dawn and go in a hot air balloon. You know, we have the footage. I have all that footage.
But is that right, Michael?
It's very right.
And that's where some online commentators believe there may be more to the story. They point to claims that Michael became increasingly distrustful of powerful entertainment systems. They point to interviews where he spoke about pressure, manipulation, and feeling targeted. Then they ask a question that keeps this entire conversation alive.
I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my butt, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer.
What exactly made Michael so fearful toward the end of his life? Now here's where Ghilane Maxwell enters the picture again, because Maxwell became one of the most recognizable faces connected to elite private networks. Her name became associated with access to wealth, influence, and powerful people operating far away from public scrutiny. And once that image became attached to her, people naturally started looking at every major celebrity story differently, especially stories involving secrecy, powerful social circles, and people who later claimed they felt pressured, isolated, or controlled. That's why some internet discussions have tried to place Michael Jackson inside a much larger conversation about celebrity power structures. Not because there is verified evidence connecting him to Epstein's, but because people have become increasingly suspicious of elite networks after learning how long Epstein's operation remained hidden from public view. And that's where another interesting comparison started appearing online. Naomi Campbell. Now, to be clear, Naomi Campbell has denied wrongdoing regarding Epstein and has publicly stated she was unaware of criminal activity. But her name often appears in discussions about elite social circles because she moved through many of the same high-profile environments. Allegedly, Naomi was to Diddy as Maxwell was to Epstein.
The paper does manage to make it clear that you were not aware of Epstein activities. Did you know who he was?
Yes, I knew him. I was introduced to him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend Flavio. He was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows.
Did you suspect what he was doing?
No. And what he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else.
That led some online commentators to speculate about whether certain influential social figures acted as connectors between powerful individuals, introducing people, building relationships, and helping elite networks expand. Those comparisons remain speculation, but they continue to fuel debates online. And the deeper people go into those debates, the more Michael Jackson's name keeps resurfacing. Now here's where things take another turn. One of the biggest theories circulating online involves the idea that Michael may have witnessed behavior or environments that disturbed him. You've probably seen versions of this theory before. People point to old interviews, old recordings, and statements. Then they ask whether Michael's concerns about children came from personal experiences inside entertainment circles. Again, there's no verified evidence proving these claims, but the reason the theory survives is because Michael's supporters often point to a pattern. They argue that many young stars later describe feeling overwhelmed by fame, pressure, manipulation, and isolation. Justin Bieber, Britney Spears, Amanda Bynes, Aaron Carter.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
Signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So yeah, and we gonna go full crazy.
Going
Crazy.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, you know, telling me they love me and, you know, just turn their back on you. I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to go through anything I went and wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
The road ahead is unexpected, and don't think that you know exactly how it's going to end up being, because it can change in a split second, and for good or for worse, you know, it all depends. And you got to go through life experiences. I would tell Justin, you know, hey, you're going to have to go through life. You know, yes, I know what it's like to do headlining tours and sell them out and be working and all over the world and be tired and exhausted and start getting frustrated with the people that you work with, and you know, I know what that's like, but you gotta know what it is that you're doing, and that it's a blessing, and remember where you were before you got to where you are.
I'm scared. There's things going on with me. There's rumors. There's people that are body shaming me, and they're putting me down, and yeah, like, I didn't realize I was 115 pounds. That is terrible. I wasn't even looking at myself in the mirror because I didn't like the way I looked.
What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear? I don't even know how to answer that question. Not being able to live as long as I can. That's my greatest fear.
Different people with different stories. Yet supporters of these theories believe the emotional themes sound surprisingly similar. That's where the broader conversation starts. Not with Epstein nor Maxwell, and not even Michael Jackson, but the system itself. Because once enough former child stars start describing emotional struggles, people naturally begin asking bigger questions. What happens when children enter industries controlled by powerful adults? What happens when fame arrives before emotional maturity? What happens when money, influence, and celebrity status become more important than personal well-being? Those questions hit a lot harder today than they did 20 years ago. And that's why Michael Jackson keeps getting pulled back into these conversations. Now pause right there, because this is where the entire discussion comes full circle. Ghilane Maxwell became one of the most infamous figures connected to elite secrecy. Epstein's scandal shattered public trust in powerful networks, and Michael Jackson remains one of the most debated celebrities in modern history. Put those three elements together and you get a story people can't stop talking about, because so many questions remain unanswered. And maybe that's the real reason this conversation refuses to die. People aren't just searching for facts, they're searching for explanations. They want to understand how powerful circles operate and why so many celebrities describe pressure, fear, and isolation. One user said, "So what pardon is she talking about? She was found guilty and sentenced by the court. No pardon, no mercy." Another online user wrote, "This is one of those cases where the more you research, the more innocent you realize Michael truly was." Then this user goes, "I'm very skeptical about every celebrity who died from a drug overdose. I think it's a way some powerful people use to get rid of them for whatever reason. And they want to know whether the public ever gets the full story when enormous money, influence, and reputation are involved. Because once trust breaks down, every old interview starts sounding different. Old photograph gets re-examined. Every old friendship gets questioned. So now the spotlight turns to you. Do you think Michael Jackson was simply another celebrity caught in the pressure of global fame? Or do you believe there are still chapters of his story the public hasn't fully understood? Why do so many conversations about elite influence, secrecy, and celebrity culture keep leading people back to the same powerful circles? And when it comes to Ghilane Maxwell, do you think her story changed the way people view Hollywood forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments and click on this next video. It's just as crazy.